Hey everybody, I just want to go ahead and point out something about this Dell computer. This is a Dell Dimension 3100, and here's a common practice I see with a lot of OEMs. They like to skimp out on the power supply. This is a Dell power supply, possibly manufactured by a third party such as Hypro or Light-On or somebody. And let's have a look here. Well, first, let's go ahead and have a look at the specs. Let me tell you the specs on this machine. It's got a Pentium 4 HT CPU, socket 775, probably a 2.8 to 3 gig CPU. Not exactly sure. It has a single SATA hard drive. It's got a slot available for another one. It has one optical drive, which is a DVD burner. This is an aftermarket replacement. I installed this several years ago. And other than that, it's stock. It don't have any graphics cards installed. As a matter of fact, on this particular motherboard, you can't install one. You have to use the integrated graphics unless you use a PCI card. But integrated graphics is decent for what this machine's used for. It does, however, have a PCI Express x1 slot for something, you know, like a TV tuner or a sound card or something like that. Anyways, back to the power supply. Let's go in here and have a look at these specs. This power supply is only rated for 230 watts. Now, in my opinion, this is really cutting it. You may have seen a video a while back about an HP, about the power supply, and it was the Best Tech 250 watt, the ATX 250-12Z. I thought that was cutting it until I met this machine. I mean, this is, I mean the CPU in the system, you know, the Prescott CPUs, they are power hungry. They pull nearly 100 watts TDP. Actually, more power when you really think about it. And, I mean, if you was to add a hard drive to this thing, or even memory, you could easily be overtaxing that power supply. I think it's ridiculous because, I mean, anytime you have to upgrade this machine, you gotta replace the power supply to be safe. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and have a look here at this Best Tech power supply I have on hand. This is the Best Tech ATX 312E Rev DR. The revisions kind of vary a bit. This is the E-Machines pull. Now, by the way, this is not the power supply that's known to kill E-Machines. The 250 12E is the one that's known to kill E-Machines. These power supplies work just fine. I've worked with these for quite a while now. Anyways, let's look at the specs on this one. We have output 300 watt max. 12 volt rail has 15 amps. 5 volt rail has 30 amps. Minus 12 volt 0.8. 5 volt standby 2 amps. 3.3 volt rail is 28 amps. It says plus 5 volt and 3.3 volt, 180 watt max, 5 volt and 12 volt, and 3.3 volt, 288 watt max. So it's nearly like a 300 watt power supply. Okay, let's have a look at this Dell power supply. Its output is 230 watt max. 5 volt rail is 19 amps. 12 volt rail is 14 amps. 5 volt standby rail is 1 amp. Very sad. 3.3 volt rail is 5 amps. Now the Best Tech has 28 amps on the 3.3 volt rail, 30 amps on the 5 volt rail, and 15 amps on the 12 volt rail. I mean, this is sad. This power supply is getting replaced just for safety. A lot of times I go to the Google Computer Works store nearby to purchase components to build refurbished systems and to repair computers with. And it is nothing uncommon to see these Dells in the parts section due to bad power supplies. I wonder why somebody decided to upgrade the machine and then the power supply couldn't handle it. Because Dell decided to fit in a very basic power supply. I mean, you could just add in a card reader or an extra drive here, or maybe an extra hard drive. Your power supply could fail on you then just because it couldn't handle it. It's really sad. Well, at the same time, if you was to have an E-Machines from built in the same year, that had these 300 watt Bestech units, you'd still have some headroom for upgrades such as, you know, a better CPU, a better hard drive, more memory, card reader. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff you could add in. Power supply be able to handle no problem. With this kind of power setup, I just wanted this thing could actually even run a Magic Jack. You know, those do consume about half an amp of power. I mean, it's, you know, if you was to load this machine up with USB device, just by doing that, you could probably overtax the power supply. I have now removed the power supply from the computer, and it feels quite light. Very light, in my opinion. Let's go and have a look inside through this little vent here to see the componentry. We do have some filtering components in there. Rather tiny heat sinks, not very big. Have some capacitors. Big old bare spot on the circuit board though. There's not really much to this thing. The fan's located on the back. I went ahead and installed the other power supply. And this computer would be much happier getting 300 watts of power rather than 230 maximum watts of power. Anyways, there you go.